who is our ZBA or our zoning officer for the town minutes. All right. Oh, and Allison Weber underneath. Our town clerk. Sorry, Allison.
That's fine.
It's because some of the names are here were wrong.
Yeah, she's gonna turn your, when it comes to your button, she turns it off now.
That's okay. All right, so did the board members review the minutes from last meeting? The two of you that were on the board?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
May I have a motion for approval of the minutes as written?
I motion to approve the minutes as written.
Claire,
Second.
Tiffy, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And these two will be
Abstention.
abstaining? Okay. All right. So on the agenda tonight, we have Ryan Smith for the property at 5546 North Burdick Street, Fayetteville. He'll need 5 variances to have a 2-lot subdivision. And you've all received the packets, so you got them in front of you. All right, Ryan, do you want to come to the podium and explain to the board what you are looking to do?
Sure.
So we do that, I have to open, no, he goes and then I open it after.
Sure. Yes, Tim, thank you. So bought the property in North Burdick Street in middle of 2021, July-ish, 2 houses on 1 parcel. That under my understanding is under the current zoning for that area, that's not non-conforming use. Met with Jamie, the town attorney, and the town engineer a little bit about the project, told him what my thoughts and wishes were, and now we're here with you guys trying to.
Brian, give me 1 second, I skipped one thing on here.
Okay.
The legal notices for this meeting have been published. Can I get a motion to waive the reading of those notices?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
All right, sorry, Ryan.
That's no problem. So to kind of try to correct some of the deficiencies with the property that I purchased, one of the things that I would like to do is get each house on its own lot, so to speak. So that would be the reason for the subdivision. And then through the process of the subdivision, we're now looking at the requirements to meet current zoning, and I cannot meet the variances that I'm asking for. So that's what I'm here to discuss, is the reason for those variances. Area variance, is sideline variances that's separate than area, that all under the same category?
They're all area variances.
Okay.
But some are side yards, some are front
Okay.
yards, some are
You want me to
the whole
read
lot.
through what they are real quick?
Sure, I think it's a great idea.
Okay, so we'll start with lot A, which is the house to the left of the property. So required is 100,000 square feet for an area variance. He has 17,946 square feet. Needs a variance of 82,054 square feet. In the front yard, the requirement's 40 feet. He has 20.8. He needs a variance of 19.2 feet. In the rear yard, there's 40-foot requirement. He has currently 0. He needs a variance of 40 feet. For lot B, which is the house to the right, the newer house, there's an area variance needed. Required is 100,000 square feet. He has 28,749 square feet. Needs a variance of 71,251 square feet. And then the other one for this one is road frontage. The requirement is 200 feet. He has 199.63 feet and needs a variance of 0.37 feet.
Yeah, and just to clarify, all of these are area variances as opposed to use variances, but these also happen to be a lot area, which is, not enough property.
Right.
Under the code.
So we're leaving it, it's existing as an R1,
It is,
and we're not changing that.
correct.
Okay.
And that's what those variances would allow us to.
Well, the use variance, which is not in play here,
Correct.
would do that.
Not in play.
Not in play, okay.
my thought, KP, was along those lines of thinking was to try to keep the use of the property the same, trying to deal with what's there and not trying to deviate a lot from that, but work with you to try to achieve something that works better for longevity for that use of that property. I'm proposing to decrease the depth of the house. It's still going to require a variance in the rear yard on the canal side, on the old Erie Canal side. But that's one of the factors in the map that you're looking at. There's a note showing that we're proposing to decrease the depth of the house by 7 foot.
Will that put it on the lot line?
That will put it 0.4 away from the line. So it's 6.6 over according to the current survey that we had done. I'm saying that we would come back 7 foot, so just a little bit of wiggle room there.
Have you had someone look at that to see if that's feasible?
What, to construct it? Or? Yeah.
To just lop off just exactly how much you need?
Oh, no, to be clear, we want to rebuild the house. The option of remodeling it is on the table, but it's not the best option. The best option for the house, because of the condition of it, Tom and I had a chance to walk through it recently, and I think that would agree that it's pretty far gone in its state. There's some foundation that could be saved, but the structure itself is rough. Actually, worn and timber there too in the walkthrough. So the thought would be is to try to get through this board, get to the planning board, and then get a building permit to reconstruct that house new. And the current proposal is to try to work within the footprint that that house has, with the exception of decreasing the footprint on that Erie Canal side.
We use the
How much-
foundation?
That there's parts of the foundation, the architect that's drawing it, we've toyed with if some of it can be saved or not. He'll inspect it and he'll sign off on whether it's feasible or not. And we're not opposed to replacing it.
How much square footage will remain on that house?
The new house on that modified footprint would be somewhere on the first floor in the neighborhood of 850-ish square feet. And then it would have, the current house is a 2-story house, the new house would be 2-story too, with maybe additional 400 or so, 400 or 500 on the second floor. So probably be 1,400, pretty modest size.
Yeah, how big is it now?
Right now it's bigger than that. Right now it's probably 1,800. Yeah. I'd have to look at, probably the tax records probably have an estimated size. I'd have to check my notes. I don't have that with me, KP.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in that range, 1,800 range. Yeah. With 2 full stories. Yeah. I'm trying to think what else to mention.
Have you given any thought to moving the house to a different location on the lot that would reduce the
I did, and
variance?
I have a plan. I tried to send it. I didn't actually realize that Lisa's not too much involved with deviating, so I sent her late this afternoon. It was too late to get it to you, obviously. So I do have it on my iPad. I do not have a printed copy. I'm willing to pass it around. There's some complications, and I can tell you why, but I wanted you, the board, to be able to see that I tried an alternate plan. So that's the here on the right is the proposed other alternate location.
And just for new board members, because there is the question is there something else that the applicant
I
can
can
do?
email that to somebody
Right.
if you want to put it up.
So
Which
actually,
will
it'll take a second,
Yeah.
but I'll have you join the meeting and then
Okay.
you screen share and it'll be up on the screen.
Okay,
for
so yeah, I
everyone
might
to
have, so I probably have to zoom on here, hopefully.
see. You can, here, we'll work together.
Okay, thank
Quick
you.
Pause, everybody.
Yeah,
All
okay.
right, so we're gonna go to the town news website.
Okay, thank you so much.
No problem. That's what I am here for.
I have to always have my brother help me with some of these things.
Oh, look, you've already
Technology.
looked for trash pickup in the town.
Oh, I did, yes, I'm
Yeah.
trying to get them to finally send the trucks over there today. We're paying for it, but the trucks don't go over there.
Over here. Septic is in there?
Yeah, and then that cuts these lots both down to 60,000. Which would be much less substantial for various.
How many septic tanks do you have?
So each house has its own septic system. There may have been an error with not getting your board, or
All
maybe.
right, we have to turn your volume down. Okay, in 1 second, you're gonna get a notice from me saying, do you want to join the meeting as a participant, and then I'll come back.
Okay. While she's doing that, to answer your question about the septic systems, there's two septic systems currently for each house.
2 drain fields?
2 leach fields, 2 tanks, they're multiple hundreds of feet away, they're probably a few hundred feet away from each other.
Are they all approved by the county and so on?
Yeah, I talked to the county about the one that was done when the house was built in 1988. They have record of it. It's all been inspected and approved, and it's in functioning condition. The house is lived in. That house is actually very nice.
That's the one on the right.
Yeah, I think that was built by the Boot brothers in 1988. It really had good bones. We did some cosmetics, put a roof on it, painted the outside, painted the inside, refinished the floors, things like that.
That's the one you said the septic was to the northwest of the house
Yes,
by
sir.
about 10 or 15 feet.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
And they have
But the other one on the lot A, that is within that fenced area.
It is, and then I have this in my hand is the approved drawing to do a new system, because the old system had probably had some deficiencies. And the planning board encouraged me to go this route, so I did so. So the planning board has a copy of this approved, and that's in my hands, that's been approved by the county, right here, and shows the lease. I'm going to pass that around. I do not have a digital copy of this. I don't need that.
Thanks.
How's that? You ready?
Sure. Okay. Then this picture is,
This is what I generated after our meeting yesterday.
right, so the garage is there in the middle, so this would be an alternate option.
Yeah, because it's very faint, but it says remove existing house and those dashed lines on the left. And the garage, that's in good shape, stays. And then the proposed location for an alternate location for the house in the same size is over there on the right. And it does, they did show on my request, they do show the new setbacks. If we were to go that route, they're definitely better. They all still require the same variances, but they're better.
Less.
Yes, they're less. There are some complications with that plan. The septic system would have to be moved, or we would have to consider trying to tie into the sewer. I called J.K. Tobin today, who did the sewer right next door, and they kind of shocked me a little bit with how complex it might be. I'm sure the town engineer, Doug Miller, could comment on that. It's Doug Miller, right? He could comment on that more, but it seems like it'd be very expensive with a pump station, some complexity there. It may be, for a commercial project, that may make sense. For a small residential project, that probably makes it undoable for me, is my guess. So I think what would have to happen is the plan that we have for the septic system would have to be redone and moved. Would probably essentially be very similar, but I think it would just kind of shift towards Burdick Street and over, but still meet their guidelines. So it's doable. Is that my first choice? Probably not. But I wanted to show the board that I was making every effort to try to do all I could to try to make this work.
Is this where the septic would be? Is this right here?
Yes.
That, unless I'm mistaken, that is higher land than where the garage is.
Correct. There's if you see the 2 tanks, one of the tanks is the new septic tank, the other tank is a new pump. That system requires the graves do not work to have a gravity fed, which is unfortunate because that costs more money, but you're right.
Question back again on the septic.
Yes.
Neither lot is big enough for a septic system.
Not according to the town of Manlius zoning, it's not. According to the county, it works with their setbacks and their design standards. That's why they.
So if you relocate the house, you have to have new perk test?
If I called the engineer who designed the septic system today as well, and if the perk test and deep hole test are still within the field, he won't have to redo them. If it shifts so much, if we go to plan B, so to call it plan B, if it shifts so much that it's outside of the perk test that we did and the deep hole test that we did, then we'll have to redo them. But if it's still within that field, he could work with that data and just resubmit an alternate drawing showing, resubmit to the county.
How that works, but okay. How does that work with the canal behind you?
Well, we're moving the system that's there is 30 feet closer to the canal than the system I'm proposing. So I actually moved. So I was kind of hoping we were going to go in there and just say, hey, we're going to replace the tank, right? And keep the existing leach field. But the engineer said the county is going to want you to do this. Like, if you're going to do any work here on the septic system, it's going to be better if you are willing to move it farther away from the canal. So I said, that's fine. Let's do it. Let's do it right. Let's move it. That's how that evolved.
So your original plan is the one that has it further from the canal? Or is it this one?
I don't have two septic plans. I have one approved
Okay.
septic plan for rebuilding the house where it stands, with the exception of that reduction of the rear lot line. If I'm directed towards plan B, which helps make the variances not as great of an ask, then I will have to go back and redesign the septic. And what I was trying to describe to KP was the amount of work to redesign it, sort of based on how far we have to move it.
Remember when we met with you, we asked you, would there be any possibility of building the house on the other side of the garage?
Right, and that's what this
Yeah.
drawing, this was generated after we met. So this had no existence after that morning. So that afternoon, I went to the architects and sat with them. They drew it for me on the spot. Sent it to me this morning. I sent him a quick email back. There was one thing I wanted to clarify, and he was so busy that he didn't get back to me. But I was at least able to bring this tonight, based on that quick
Is
turnaround.
that now what you're thinking, to build it on the other side?
It's harder for me. It's probably harder for me. I don't know if it's the best fit. It does make things more crowded. It puts the house closer to the other house, which I think if you get the look and the feel of the lot, it's probably not my first choice, but I do realize that it makes the variance ask less, so I'm being transparent with that. But is it my first choice? No, I think my first choice is what I originally came in with, to try to rework the house that's there, make it nice, make it new, make it safe. I joked with Tom and I said, Tom, if you were working for the town of Manlius when I first bought this place and you walked through, you probably would condemn it when you left. It's pretty rough. So we want to fix that.
All right, so before we go, because you guys are asking questions, why don't we get a motion for someone from the board to open the item to a public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
Okay,
now,
question to our attorney. Seeing that these lots aren't of right size for a septic system, would you need a variance on that?
No, because that's not within our purview. Our purview is just with respect to the area variances and the setbacks for the structures. Then whatever can happen at county, but that's why it's important, like what the county thinks, just, because we could give these variants and then they'll be like, well, you can't put your septic there anyway.
Right.
Back at us, but
We don't, but
it's not for us.
we don't need to go there. If the county okays the septic system,
Mhm.
one way or the other, then.
Right, right. Our purview is just to say, what do we want these setbacks and to be?
Yeah, okay, thank you.
With respect to the lot area, that's also a question, but it kind of is what it is, right?
Yeah.
can't make it any bigger.
And the question of whether there's a concern about how, with a zero lot line basically on the house, is it preferable to have something, what's it say there?
It's about 20,
20-foot setback.
20.2.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And again, what we're saying is, here's your setback. You have to have at least a 20-foot setback. If this is what this board decides. But if there's someplace else on the property you could end up building it, you can do that too, as long as the setbacks are met. However, this is such a small lot that it is likely whatever he proposes is where it's going to go, because it's so tight. So-
Yeah, well, this version up here, moving the house the other side of the garage, as far as the setbacks go, to me, would be better than leaving it and just lopping it off with a zero. That's personally, yeah.
Right, sure. Maybe, can we pull up the overhead, or have you all seen the overhead? Because the other thing you may want to, there we go, you may want to think about is that a better place for the house anyway, given the curve and the land and whatever, but that, I don't have an, obviously, I don't have an opinion, it's just a question.
You wouldn't have to create a new driveway because it's already there. You know, it's, the setbacks would be better.
Yeah, I got a problem with that zero lot line.
Well,
If he leaves it where,
that, even that, like, you take 7 feet off the back, he's still right there. And because we checked, Tom and I were talking about, like, even the overhangs, the soffits, you know, that's accounting for that is what this 7 feet is.
Which document are you looking for? The photo of the property?
The image, the colored image? Is that what you're looking for?
Mhm. So,
That one.
yes,
Okay. That does help.
I'm just gonna go and do share screen so that everyone who's watching at home can also see it.
Can that be
So-
zoomed in?
Yes, it certainly can. Let me get rid of this guy.
So what's interesting about the way this house is, KP, is that it sits kind of cockeyed a little on that property line.
Mhm.
So the back left corner is the furthest towards the canal. And then it kind of goes, it juts back a little bit as it go to the right side of the house. Kind of along the road almost.
yeah. I don't know the code, but don't you need a egress out the back? With that, with a zero lot line, you don't have any, you can't have a door out the back of the house.
Well, it doesn't have to be at the back. Each bedroom has to have an egress that it meets the
For the
code.
windows.
A window, door, whatever, the square footage that meets that egress, but it doesn't have to be on any particular side of the house. So to me, we would, everything that we would bring in, if your board approves whatever, like Jamie was saying, approves the setbacks, we will provide from the architect, everything to code, and we'll be able to meet that. There are some code issues with being close to the line. Definitely the overhang is one thing to consider. So another alternate decision or discussion point would be, do we decrease it by 8 feet rather than 7? You know, if that helps to have it be 1 point. Now, and then to Tim's point, as you go from the existing house from west to east, because it's at an angle, it's over the line currently on the east side, but it's
Yeah.
not on the west. I'm sorry, I said that in reverse. It's over the line on the west side.
West side, yeah.
And then to answer your question about the current foundation of that house, on the left side, there's a storm like exit out of the basement.
Yes.
So there is an exit point currently on the one side of the house, not in the back side, but
It'd have to be on the east side.
it's
There's
on
a door-
it's on the
there's a
west
door
side.
on
There's a door on the west side right now.
On the west side,
Yeah,
and that's the zero lot line.
it's on the side.
It's on the side of the house.
Yeah,
Okay,
but there is a door there, so.
yeah.
How
But like,
useful that
you
door
get
is, I
the-
don't know, but.
Right, no, we would, the intent is to, want to own something that's nice, safe, new, easy to maintain, that's a compliment to the town. I mean, that's really my goal. I would expect that, Pat will catch up with me after I get done doing it, so to speak. The taxes will be increased because it'll be a nice home. Won't be a very big home, but we like to have 2 houses, nice, to complement, according to code. So we would meet all those requirements that would need to happen there. And having a zero lot line, I realize is a tall ask. One of the things I do want to try to bring to attention to you guys, the board, is that this was there before I bought it. So I'm trying to work with what I sort of inherited, for lack of a better word, and try to correct it.
I didn't see the house, don't know what it looks like. Would you be better off tearing down the house and just going with the single house and one big lot?
The financially, no, the answer is no. That this deal was sort of, way it was bought, and before I even closed on it, before I even, put my purchase offer in, I came and talked to, the code enforcer at the time, Randy, about it. And I talked to him about the subdivision. Actually, the person who was under contract to buy it before me was starting the process of it. So I called Lisa Beeman. I actually came in here and I talked to her about it. And she said, yeah, they started the process. They got a certain amount of the way, and they just, the buyer wasn't patient, or something happened, and they just it fell apart. So I tried to get as much history as I could. And so the impression I got, this was not in writing, which is in verbal conversations with the various people from the town, was that the town was sort of, for lack of a better word, warm to the fact that the subdivision makes sense, because 2 houses on 1 lot in this zone, in the R1 zoning, is not conforming. So my goal, so that's one thing I'm taking off the list that's non-conforming, that will be conforming at the end of the day. Obviously, the area variance issues are challenges, and that's why we're here. But I do believe it is good to get the houses separated. I'm not intending on flipping either one. That's not the motivation there. I just think it's better. So it's better from a mortgage standpoint. But yeah, just to tear it down and have it go away and be left with a garage that's there without a house, that's not really why I bought the property.
Yeah, I wouldn't leave the garage there either. I'm just saying, you know, I don't know the numbers, don't, you know, not asking for them,
Sure.
but, it just seems to me like you'd put a lot of money in, you know, cutting it back off and even moving it, you know, doing
Yeah.
either cutting off the back or moving it. It just seems like you have a lot of money in the house, and I don't know what it would be worth when you get through.
Sure, but so yeah, if this was if this was sort of a fix and flip type idea, it probably wouldn't make sense at all. But I'm looking to provide a single family home as a rental to the community that's above average in quality, and I have others in the town of Manlius currently. And that's sort of my model as a young developer. I'm a builder by my main business is building. But the other thing that my wife and I are trying to do is invest in real estate, and quite frankly, we like the FM area, so we have a few, and we try to do it very nice. So if you look at the numbers over making a small home that can be rented in a nice area close to amenities and things like that, over a 25 year time frame,
Yeah.
then it works. So that's why. But you're exactly right. If you're just pumping hundreds of thousands of dollars into a new build here, it wouldn't make sense. But because the way it was bought, and quite frankly, the way it's assessed, I mean, it's assessed based on currently on 2 houses. If that house is defunct, like really the assessment is off. I mean, it's based on that. So that's partly what I'm trying to achieve. I'm trying to get it up and functional.
So I do want to say that if no variance were granted, the house can stay. It can be repaired. It cannot be expanded in any way. It couldn't be completely torn down either and rebuilt on the same footprint.
Oh,
So,
Now,
but-
if you cut back on that footprint, you change the footprint, right?
well, I think that would be subject to interpretation. We would talk about that, but I think if he lopped off the back just to make it conforming, he probably could do that. But otherwise you can't, it would continue to be 2 houses. It would need to be repaired. He could rent it out. And it can just stay that way, as long as it didn't get expanded or completely rebuilt or destroyed within 50% of its value.
there, in the code, and I can't quote, but it's something about you go in and do more than 40%
Right.
remodeling of a house, then you have to bring everything in the house up to code.
Yeah,
So
that's
that
Yeah.
would be,
yeah.
So that would be, again,
if he's saying that that's what would have to be done.
Having,
If we went to the scenario that Jamie's describing, and I'm aware of that scenario because I feel that that's the minimum that the town should allow me to do, is to be able to, fix the house up that I bought, correct what deficiencies. If I want to lock the back of the house off to make it conforming, I don't expect I would receive much opposition on that. But even if I did that as minimum, KP, I would absolutely bring everything up to code. I have no interest in owning something that does not meet current building code standards. That's not, I did that once. I bought a property in the city of Syracuse that I nicknamed the money pit on all the receipts because it just took so much to do it the right way that we wanted to do. So I said to myself, I don't want to own any property that I or my family wouldn't lay their head down at night and sleep in if we had to. So that we're trying to, so we would bring it up to code.
Oh.
So, yeah, so,
Just kind of bring us to what we need to look at.
yeah, so first off, thank you for answering your questions in the packet that we received. Allison, is there any audience members that have any
We have
questions?
one person in the audience, Cameron Reste, it's up on the screen, he's a law student. So Cameron, if you would like to say anything in the public hearing, you would just raise your hand or use the Q&A. Oh, there we go. Nope, he's all set.
All right. Thank you. All right, can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close the public.
Claire?
Second.
KP?
Yeah,
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. So then from here, we will go to, the board needs to go through the 5 questions, that's correct. So thank you for explaining what you were looking to do, Ryan. We're now gonna discuss as a board the same series of questions. And bear with me, this is my first meeting as chairman, so we might have a few hurdles, and that's okay. That'll work. I had one right there.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, that's it?
All right.
Okay.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go through the questions. Number 1, whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some other feasible method.
well, yes, obviously you can move the building is. We're talking about lot A. We probably need to break this up into A and B,
I think you might be right.
you know,
Yeah.
the questions A and then
Okay,
same question.
so why don't we, why don't we start with lot A first, okay?
Mhm.
So we'll go through.
Are you saying plan A or plan B? You know, his alternatives, or are you talking about the two
Lot
lots?
Lot A and lot B,
Mhm.
you know, on lot A, we have plan A and plan B,
Mhm.
right? But we'll break up the 2 lots.
But depending on where plan A or plan B is used, it makes a difference in what those variances are,
Well, yes. Mhm.
so.
So let's
Okay,
discuss
we'll-
through it.
Yeah, we'll go through it, and then, so we'll start with the property on the left, lot A. All right, so whether the benefits sought by the applicant could be achieved by some other feasible method.
And the answer is yes, you
Yes.
can move the house.
All right.
But he will still need variances.
Oh, yeah.
But he would still
Okay.
need variance. So it's the amount of the variance that might be.
But I mean, there is something there's other things he can do besides what we're doing here, what he presented so far.
I think the benefit that he's seeking is to have 2 lots.
Yes,
Yeah.
Correct.
So without the variances, he can't have 2 lots. No matter which alternative he
true,
picks.
true.
So the only way he could get 2 lots is through variances. So that answer is probably no. Right?
To the first one,
Yes,
Yeah.
to the first question.
because at the end of the day, he just wants to split the 2.
Correct. That's his goal, is to have 2 lots.
Right.
So the only way you can get 2 lots is by variances because they're so substantial.
He's got variances either way.
Correct.
Yes.
at that. All right, second question, whether an undesirable change would be produced in the character of a neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties.
No.
I think improving it's a positive thing.
Yeah,
So one of the nearby properties is property owned by him. On Plan B, it would be closer to that other property. Is that an issue?
It didn't look like it was that close.
yeah, it didn't look,
I was comfortable.
No, based on where he wants to put that other, if he was to go with Plan B, based upon that, there's still at least 100 feet or more.
91.5.
Right.
So-
between the house and the property line?
Yeah, because I'm proposing 50 foot off of the house on lot B to the new, if the subdivision is approved, it'll be 50 foot off that. And then there's another 41 feet off of that to the other proposed house location, so 90.
Oh, okay.
So yes, there is some.
Yeah, but we're talking about just to the proposed lot.
Yeah, so the plan we had up on the screen, that new house footprint would be 41 feet from the proposed lot line. And then the existing house, nicer house would be 50 feet.
Okay,
And the side setbacks on those
so
lots would be,
that was a good point that Jamie just made. So the current character of the neighborhood, what is it, right? So there are two houses of which he owns both.
right,
And then next door is a dentist office,
right,
in the canal,
right.
right? So
He's not changing the character of the neighborhood.
it's not moving the canal.
You gonna move the canal? No, you're not moving
No,
it.
but so improving that house, would that have a negative or a positive effect on that neighborhood?
No, positive, right? Agree?
Agreed.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Okay,
I'm
okay.
listening.
Don't want to shut you out there. I talk-
Oh, no, I'm,
Sometimes I talk too much, so,
we're good.
you know, put your hand up and I'll. be
She's listening.
I'm listening.
Well,
Okay.
you have a good one to start with.
Yeah,
They're not
absolutely.
usually this involved. So this is quite a good discussion.
Usually KPS and what kind of rocks they're gonna put around the pool. All right, so then the next question is whether the requested variance is substantial. I think no matter where you put the property or wherever you put that house for lot A, it's gonna be substantial just based upon the nature of the lot,
Yes,
right?
the answer to that should be yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, whether the variance will have an adverse effect on physical or environmental conditions.
My concern there is the septic system. But again, that's up to the county, so the septic system in the canal. And-
Right, but even that, I mean, it's, you know, obviously, as Jamie
county-
said, that's the county's deal, but at the same time, if you go with his plan A for that lot, it's 30 feet further away from the canal, which is a benefit. It's good for the environment versus having it however old,
Oh, you're saying,
right? The current septic and that leach field are 30 feet closer than what he's proposing
And very old.
and very old.
right,
So the new system would actually have a positive effect on, if you went with his plan A for lot A, it would, just that alone would be a benefit because it's,
What about Plan B?
now plan B,
Same. And if I can enter my opinion, I would still have a new system, which would be up to current standards, and it would still be farther away from the canal. So I think it would still have the same positive result, I believe.
I have a question. Somebody, I don't remember who brought up the fact that it was gonna be on higher ground. Does that matter? Don't they do the septic at a certain level anyway?
yeah, but he brought up the fact that he had to put in a grinder, a pump.
Oh, okay.
So basically the sewage from the one house goes into a pump system
Interesting.
and then pumps up to the,
We have a lot of A's and B's. Lot A, Plan B would not require the pump most likely.
Plan B would
That
not.
would be the house was on the right
Yeah.
side.
Right, so that house is gonna be so much closer to the field now.
So the septic would be in front of the house then.
Right, and it would probably have the appropriate to be gravity fed. But there's no problems with the pumps, they're just another
Because
Another
the-
expense.
expense.
plan B would be where
the current field is.
No,
Or
it'd be
closer,
close,
right?
it'd be close to the one I proposed. It would just be shifting it towards the other house and towards the line. And you just have to stay 10 feet off the proposed subdivision property line. And you have to stay 10 feet, tank has to be 10 feet off the house, and the leach field has to be 20 feet off the house. So when I talked to the engineer today, I was asking about the feasibility to have room to do that, to still basically build the house on the east side and still have room for the septic system. And he said he thought that it could. There's a couple trees that are gonna have to go. He said that those should go regardless. But he thought it was feasible.
I'm sorry, I should have asked. You have water to those two houses, right? You don't have water.
Yeah, that is an
well.
advantage. So that's a good note. That's partly why this all works. So if this did not have public water, we would not be able to, it would be harder to meet the 100-foot setback.
Okay,
And it would be much harder for the county to prove that.
yeah, but so you do have public water.
We do both houses, actually.
Yeah.
So everybody's favorite question, number 5.
And there may be someday, the septic thing may be a non-issue if there's any other movement going on with the sewer system. I happen to notice that the house that was built in 1988 has a rough-in, like it's ready to go in the event, but I think it's still currently far enough away that it's a pretty strong hindrance.
Yeah.
So question 5, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created. Yes.
Yes.
And for those, I mean, he bought the property, it was the way it is, so it's self-created. It's pretty much an automatic in the law.
It's a very, for the two of you, that's a very common answer for any variance, because somebody wants to do something, whether they're building a shed or you're doing the work that Mr. Smith's doing, so. So,
we've got,
well, I wanted to check, Claire, do you have any questions?
Not on lot A.
Okay, you have on lot B.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I thought we were
Well, we'll
just talking
get-
about A
yeah,
right now.
We are, we'll get to that. I just wanted to make sure before we got through it that everybody had answered any questions on lot A.
Mhm.
Carrie, do you have any questions on that lot?
I don't. No, no, everything's been answered.
Warren, you good?
Well, he answered where the septic would probably go if the house was on one side or the other.
So
Seems to
this
me it
is
would be
the discussion.
better if it was over here, which is we're concerned.
Is
It's closer to the canal where it is now.
well, if the house is over here, then he wouldn't need the pump. You need the pump on this one.
Correct,
If he moved the house over here, you wouldn't need the pump.
correct,
It'd be a gravity.
probably, yeah.
Now,
Just still go through this part, right?
question for attorney again. How do we, like on lot A, how do we go about with the variances? With the possibility of plan A or plan B?
This is what, you have to decide. You have to decide that tonight.
Decide what?
You have to decide what you want these variances to be on that lot. If you want greater setbacks, then you're answering, there's the question, right, that usually we can breeze right over because it's so obvious. This is
Right.
one where it's not so obvious, where the ZBA has to find that the minimum variance that should be, what's the minimum variance that should be granted in order to preserve and protect the character of the neighborhood and the health, safety, and welfare of the community.
So we have to pick between plan A or plan B on
You
lot
do,
A.
you do. And if you say, listen, the minimum variance is a 0 lot setback, that's fine. You can make that determination. Or you can say, listen, the minimum is this, this greater variance, the minimum that is really best for the neighborhood.
All right, do we have the variances if we went to plan B?
I think we need to look at your
Can you
plan.
put that back up again?
Absolutely.
We got the variance required as existing.
But this is for planning originally, but
I
versus.
have the setbacks on this one.
So you're gonna hit share screen.
Same area.
You want me to? I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Sorry, I just have it off.
So here's my question.
Right.
Now you officially need to ask this public hearing. So you're not-
Right.
So they definitely want to decide this.
Where it's at now, it's coming off the canal, no matter what. He's bringing it back off the canal. Improvement
he's
of
on-
the-
It's filled with.
Yeah. That's my question. I do have a question,
This is where the current leach field is, which is,
just so I understand.
the land is 2.5, 3 feet above the canal. wall.
This? No.
All right.
Stop.
Hold on one second. We're gonna,
Okay, so this is lot A. That's plan A.
Allison, can you zoom in a little? Just onto like the A side of it.
Plan.
Okay, which side?
He wants to go in the
They've got that.
dimensions there. Are you looking for Tim, so you could read those numbers?
Yeah.
So that, yeah, that's what.
So
we're
just so we can
gonna
kind of
move
get it, if we go with B, what the variances are,
What's needed.
trading from what was here. for
So,
this,
so in the front yard, 40 feet is required,
Right.
right?
and how, and it's 30,
Oh, thanks.
correct?
I'm gonna try and get them on bigger paper, but
Oh, this is good, thank you.
For variance of 10 feet.
here's the
30. This would be 30.
So it's gonna be 10.
The front would be proposed 30,
Yeah, so he would need 10 feet on the front yard variance.
so it'd be a variance.
What's the distance on the back is
20.2.
20.2, so you would need, yeah,
Basically,
19.8,
0.8.
right?
That's the rear.
Is 40.
So it would be 19.8, and right now you're asking for 40, so that's. But then the question is, this variance still has to happen, right? Because you're not.
Yeah, no
changing-
matter what.
No matter what, you're granting a variance for this, if you did this, you would
What-
grant the variance for this 82,000
That would be
square foot, because no matter what we do here, he can't change
the
the
lot.
size of the lot, because it's shaped like a piece of pizza.
Right.
And offhand, do you know, Deb, what the side yard setback is?
No,
I'll have to look it up.
they were
Well, that's.
going back and forth about
I think
side or
it's
rear
50
or
feet, but I'm
front.
not positive, because I know that I tried to keep the other house at that, conformity on the side of the yard.
Is that it?
I think that's why that's
Oh,
50.2.
yeah. Hold on.
Yeah.
Side yard is 20, 40.
So he's got.
Okay, so then we wouldn't
I
need
didn't
variance.
think
for
it
that.
was gonna work, but I got larger copies.
All right,
Is Plan B going to change the area of variance?
No, it doesn't, because it's the lot size, is
Yeah.
the lot size.
yeah, we can't make the lot any bigger, so we're just kind of,
So you're talking
That's
a
a little
change
easier to
of 20
read.
versus 40 and 19 versus 9.
yeah, it's a far less substantial variance, especially the one that we were having trouble with was this zero
Zero lot line.
In the back.
in the back, yeah. In this case, now you're only asking for 19.8 instead of asking for 40. All right, so why don't I go back through what these variances for Lot A, Plan B would be?
Right.
Or should I go through what they currently are for Plan A also? Do you want me to go through that one more time, and then we can go through what the change would be? So, all right, so Lot A, Plan A. So Canadian, I keep saying A. So the requirement's 100,000 square feet. He currently has 17,946. Needs a variance of 82,054. That does not change for Plan A or Plan B because it's the size of the lot, and we can't change that. Plan A, Lot A, front yard requires 40, currently has 20.8. He needs a variance of 19.2 feet. And then the rear yard requirement's 40, currently has 0, or -7 technically.
Right.
Needs a variance of 40. Plan B on that would be, so for the front yard, lot A, plan B, again, would be requirements 40. He'd have 30, so he would need a 10-foot variance for that property. And then same thing, but for the rear yard, requirements 40. He'd have 20.2, so he would only need 19.8.
I mean, it certainly is an unusual situation if you allow this, variance because of the tear down issue, right? So it leaves quite a bit of flexibility to include this if that's an improvement. I don't know, if that's a good place for the house or not, I can't, that's for you to decide. Sort of by looking at it.
The other thing I keep thinking about is that whole property slopes down. Whether it's on the right side or the left side, it slopes down to the canal. On the west side of the older home house, it's quite steep down. On the right side, it's more gradual, but it does slope down. So the height of the house to where the septic would be.
The height of house number, like if you were to rebuild over.
If you were to build a new house on the right side to where the septic is, the septic would be further away from the canal, but the house, the land slopes down quite a bit.
Sure.
So the house will appear higher, is what you're saying.
There's gonna be a basement in that, right?
Yeah, actually, so what would happen in either scenario, the garage that's staying is kind of the benchmark. So the concrete floor in that garage is a little bit higher than the existing floor in the existing house. The new house proposal, Warren's correct, it would probably be a little higher, just the way the lay of the land is, but not substantially, because you wouldn't want to create a situation where you had too many steps up and things like that. So with some creative, grading in between Burdick Street and the proposed home, that would actually level out probably pretty good. But then on the canal side, just like the other house has, there'd be almost like a walkout basement type thing. But it wouldn't be that, but it would look kind of like that the way they grade it.
So if you built the
From
new
the
house,
front or from the rear?
From the rear.
In the rear, yeah.
so if you build the new house on the right, would the back of that house be essentially on the same plane as the back of the garage?
It's just a little bit shy of that. The architect did this so quickly, he has the depth of the new house at 22.5 feet. I actually wanted 24, which would make that rear line setback a little different, but I'm okay with going with what I'm bringing here.
And I'm just curious, how much distance in feet would there be between the east side of the garage?
In the house.
Yeah,
This is drawn to scale. I believe it's 1
1 inch
1 inch.
equals 40 feet,
You're right, there you go. So that looks to be,
maybe an inch. Yeah.
that's probably, my guess is, just a rough guess, it's probably about 30 feet. Between the house and the garage.
30 feet.
Yep, approximately. I think it's definitely more than 20, somewhere between 20. It's, it's not as probably as great as 30. It's probably for 26 or 27 like that.
I don't know.
Tom, is that 30 feet's fine for the distance between the freestanding garage and the side of the house, right?
Yeah, absolutely, and there would be ways in which you could fireproof both structures and decrease that to about 5 feet and have that meet code.
Okay.
For those who didn't see the house, you put boulders around that garage
Yeah,
that are stacked up in like
Yeah.
a staple shape, and then fill that in.
Yeah.
To the existing garage, but that garage, I mean, we looked in there, that garage is, that's modern.
it's nice, yeah.
Now
You may have, I think you even thought at one point it was new, but we just fixed it up. We painted it and put a roof on it and then fixed the roof.
What would be the difference between the old, the new, if we moved it over to the other side, how much feet between two properties? Did we say that already?
The sideline, 41.5, that's the right-hand number there, that's the quote you're asking about.
Okay,
Yeah, so that, I think they were saying that that wouldn't require a sideline variance, is that?
No
correct?
variance on that.
On that one, we need.
Yeah.
But either scenario means we don't have sideline issues, right? I think
Say
plan A
again?
or plan B, neither one has sideline variance. issues,
All right. If you look at where it was,
That's right, only rear.
yeah.
Here, it's you got the zero.
yeah, this way here, you wouldn't have any variance needed, and this one here, definitely. So, yeah. You don't have any sideline.
No.
Problems either way.
So then that's making sure I was doing the math right.
19 and 19 versus 20.
All right, so, Jamie just noticed too, we actually have to adjust the front yard. If we go with Plan B, the front yard variance of, we just said it would be 10 feet. It actually would be 17.7 feet because the current garage is 22.3 feet.
Oh, right.
So we would have to make the variance for that corner
Oh,
Right.
versus that of the house.
So the one that's closest
catch.
to like.
Mhm.
I understand.
Yeah, because the road slopes back the other way, so.
So
Good
are you talking
catch.
2 feet difference then between the two?
Right, and
Uh,
it would
yeah.
pretty much preclude him from building the house over there, because he would be able, you know, that couple feet would make a big difference to him.
Yeah,
Good
it would.
catch.
He'd have to
Yeah.
push that back, push it this way, this way.
Are you talking about the front yard variance on plan B?
Yes.
No, yeah,
Mhm.
front yard on Plan B.
Would be-
So
he'd be-
it changes from needing a variance of 10 feet.
For a 30-foot setback, because he can still put the house there. He can go back further, but in order to make the garage conforming.
He would need
You see where the-
17.7 feet,
you see the
A
garage,
variance? A variance?
a variance of 17.7. Right, to get the 40.
17.7
It's
plus
22.
22.
It's 22.3 off right now, so then 17.7 would be what you need for that.
Good catch, yeah.
And the other one we have, the measurement from the garage back is also.
That would be,
we also have to-
that's less
So
than
would
the
that be,
20.
so would the rear yard then be the garage and not the
Correct.
house because it sits back further?
Yeah,
Correct. But
Okay.
either way, you'd still build the house probably in that similar location,
Back of the garage is further away.
this
It's-
way here.
closer,
It's,
It's closer than
closer to the rear yard.
closer than what the proposed house would be.
right,
So that's what the variance we'd have to give him would be on the back side of that.
Are you trying to scale that out? for me?
Yeah, this one is the scale that I have here. Does anybody have? Tom, probably, you have one? Thanks.
Good catch, yeah. Yeah, this side.
So you're talking about only 2 feet difference from Plan A to Plan B? Or
No,
no? Hmm?
It-
In
on
that
the-
variance on front,
On the front.
that he's, okay.
No, well, we changed it by 7.7 feet.
Well,
So here. I'll show you what,
His is proposing 22.3 for a variance of 17.7.
yeah, like right here. So the variance is off of this. That spot right there. Not the corner of the house, which is 30. That's only at 22.3. So if we do that, that's why it's 17 versus it would only be 10.
Makes sense. Basing off this already at 40.
I promise I did right.
Okay.
So 3/8 of an inch. This side.
not this.
Good, they're cracking up the road every time.
No.
and by the way, whatever we decide, you decide tonight on those variances, he could tear down the garage as well. Understand that, and he can meet whatever is granted, as long as he meets whatever is granted.
Right, you could tear down the garage and build a house right there.
Scales at 17.5.
From the rear of the
From the rear
garage,
of the garage to the property line,
Okay.
17,
0.5 feet. So it's not quite a half inch on a 40-foot scale.
so we need a variance. 17.5 plus 40 feet.
You're talking about the rear yard plan B?
Yes.
Shifted from the house, everything onto the garage, yeah. It's 22.5.
And he has a lot of issues.
Yeah.
17.5 is the variance or the, what he has?
That's what he has, so he would need 22.5. So let's clean this up a little, we'll go through it one more time. So again, lot A, plan B, now that the math is right. The area variance does not change. The front yard would need a variance of 17.7 feet. And then the backyard would need a variance of 22.5 feet.
22.5, yeah.
Yeah. So,
And sidelines, they're okay in either way. Yeah.
correct. So I guess,
We still need the variance on the lot size.
yeah, that doesn't, no matter what we do, whether he went A, B, C,
Still need the variance on the.
still need that 82,000. Yeah.
Yep.
Because the only thing that would change that requirement would be if he was to hook into the sewer, it would go from 100,000 down to 60. But obviously we discussed earlier what, the financial aspect of it. So if you go with him putting in a septic here, you have 100,000 square feet, so you need an 82,000 foot.
So the only difference if you go from plan A to plan B,
Yeah.
area stays the same, front, the only difference would be 2 feet, 2.5 feet differences between the variances, correct?
Correct.
And then the rear would be a difference of 18 or 17.5
Correct.
between the two. So that's would be, when I break it down that way, plan A, plan B, what you're looking at,
Right.
17.5 and 2 feet.
So the question then is it, in which direction are you as a board leaning towards plan A or plan B for lot A?
A, right.
Lot B will be much easier. We'll get to that in a minute.
You understand the difference is in the rear.
Yes,
Substantial
Okay.
difference.
yes,
Because we're gonna go from a 0 lot line
correct.
to a setback of 17.5.
Mm,
No.
No, 22.5.
22.5.
That's what
Or
the
I'm
variance.
sorry, it'd be 17.5 is the setback. The
Yes.
variance is 22.5 to allow up to that 40, that's the requirement.
Yeah, okay.
So KP was.
So we're
So, yeah,
going,
7.
we're going from 0 lot line, if he leaves the house where it is, to moving the house to the other side of the garage,
Yeah.
Right.
and then granting a 17.5 foot setback.
And if you do a 17.5 on plan A, that puts the house in Bird Street.
Yeah, yeah.
It just
Yeah.
gives you more front.
It negates that house in that essence. It just,
Right. So. Everybody clear? Yeah, right,
You're here.
clear?
I'm sorry, you just did the numbers. I took the scale off, it's at an angle. The other side is 13 feet to the property line. I'm sorry. So 17.5 on the one end of the garage and it's 13 on the other. So you probably want to know that.
The shorter side
The
is
shorter
what we
side is
need.
13, sorry.
the left side of it?
The rear,
Yes, the west side.
Okay.
Sorry, that because the
So-
angle, I just thought as you're saying that, so I need to check that. So
Okay, so it's 13 feet,
that's the closest part.
dead on
That's
13,
the
not.
Yeah, I just,
Okay,
just
so then-
double check it, sorry.
The rear yard.
So then
variance would be
the
27,
rear yard variance would be 27 instead of 22.5.
and that's 0,
Okay.
13.0.
We need to get
Yeah,
two
it
more
is. I
out.
just, yeah, I went right on the, I went on the far left corner, it's closer.
Okay,
All right, so there is that seven. Okay.
so with that being said, going back to my question of,
Still with us?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
going back to what I said, so as a board, which direction are you leaning? Obviously, if we go with, for lot A, plan A, the existing structure, it's a much more substantial variances that we'd be granting, specifically that 0. And then, and even the front yard one's fairly big, but not as big as it would be. With plan B, less of a substantial variance, gives him the ability to, in my eyes, do more with that house versus where the house is now. The existing structure, if he was to pull that back 7 feet, or even if we said, hey, it's gotta be 8 feet, having been in the house, that really makes that a very cramped structure, unless he's building it like a longhouse.
Rectangular.
Yeah, it would make he could do it, certainly, but it would make it harder for him. And that's just, my thoughts on it. Where plan B, kind of you've got your plan there, the house you want.
Yeah, I tried to do a pros and cons list because I thought that the board may ask the opinion of which one. And there's some pros and cons, but there are some advantages to being able to build in the new spot. There's not a ton left with that old house that's really usable.
The other thing too that I forgot we didn't bring up, but I had mentioned to Jamie here at the beginning of the meeting. So I had reached out to the Canal Corporation. So I just want to clarify this part of it. So the Canal Corporation obviously controls the land adjacent to and the canal itself. This particular piece of property is not theirs. It's part of the old Erie Canal. So it's technically was abandoned, as he explained it, abandoned or bequeathed to the State Parks Department.
Right.
So technically, he's 7 feet onto New York State parkland, which makes that from an environmental standpoint, when it goes to if he was doing stuff, the rules and things he has to follow with the state park system is a lot more complicated than what it is for the Canal Corporation. At least that's how it was explained to me by the gentleman from the Canal Corporation
You may
today.
have
So,
some difficulty building that close.
Well, that would be another one to go on the con side, I guess.
yeah, and he said if we needed to, if you decided to go plan A, there's a whole process. And because if it had been Canal Corporation, the other thing that you would have had to do is if that house was sustainable as it is, and you could just fix it, right, and not go over that 40%, which it's down to studs, so you're already over 40%. You would then have to get granted by the Canal Corporation a certificate of occupancy that you'd be required to pay the fee every year, and they do an inspection every couple of years. Because obviously you're on their land and there's like some leasing that has to happen there, so.
Mr. Kelly did all your homework for
Yeah,
you.
that's,
It's your lucky day.
It's tough to find the appropriate people for that.
He called me an hour before the meeting, so it's fresh
Yeah,
in my head.
nice work on that homework, yeah.
Question, this house, or these properties are not in the historical district because of the canal or anything like that?
No.
No.
Okay.
I mean, I would think, if, given what Tim said, if you want to put in the notes for the finding of adverse impact on the physical environmental conditions, I think the answer is that, again, it's an improved in light of the state lands.
Yeah.
If the board agrees with that finding.
Yeah.
Well, and he said too that they're more strict about it because of the fact that it's on a waterway, that if it was like, if you encroach 7 feet into the edge of Green Lakes Park, not as big of a deal. When you're feet from a waterway, there's a whole lot more that they would probably require you to have to do with erosion.
Well, the canal itself, although that's been abandoned, is also questionable about the historical value of that, because, well, yeah.
But that's the thing too, is that, because of the fact that it's not Canal Corporation, but it's the state park, there's just a whole lot more that he'd have to handle on that side, so.
Yeah.
With that in mind, I go back to my question asked a few minutes ago of, do we lean towards A? Which I think you were, before I brought that up, you were gonna finish your kind of pro and con list.
I think the outcome was, I honestly have to say, it's pretty equal from a building and development standpoint. So that's why I rushed to sort of come to you with both, just to say, here's what I have, here's what I think I can do. And I said, I actually went over there before here and I was walking around trying to say, well, if the board, if you have an opportunity to try to tell them which way you'd like to go. And I think at the end of the day, I just decided that it was going to go the way it's going to go. I'm going to provide two options and we're going to see how it works. And so, yeah, so it was pretty equal. And now hearing what you're saying, it may sway towards the moving farther away from the lands of the park, not the canal.
It's the Canal Park.
Claire, Terry, what do you guys
I don't know.
feeling?
Too much information.
No.
So really all we're asking here
Mhm.
is for lot A. Do you go with
B.
the A, what we originally came in looking at tonight, or B?
B.
Okay.
Yeah.
One
I think
question,
there's more
the
flexibility
septic
there.
would be in the front. So it would be the southeast corner of the house over here.
So this plan that was approved for Plan A, this would just to get away from the Plan B's house proposed location, this would have to shift that way.
Right, but
Yeah,
it'd be
but that's
further away
all-
from the canal,
Yeah,
it'd be
it would
southeast.
probably be something like that,
Warren,
just a little bit.
remember too, and not to discourage you from asking that, but just remember too, that's, as Jimmy was saying in the beginning, the county will make the determination where that has to be. And so they'll determine, hey, what he has to do, what those steps
Just
are.
curious.
Yeah, no, I know.
I think you'll have more, I mean, especially with Plan B, there's a little bit more, like you said, more flexibility with what you could do.
Yeah.
I think Plan B, I mean, your environmental, I mean, the other,
B.
yeah.
It's also,
B.
also just from and not an aesthetic, but maybe a safety standpoint. You're a little bit further back from that corner. You're still coming out of the same driveway, no matter which way you do this, but
Yeah, it's definitely, it came about because we met at the site, and I always feel pretty strongly that those type of meetings are very valuable, because you're kind of doing a hands-on, looking at what you have, and pictures are great, and drawings are great, but sometimes it's good to see that, and that was a development from that meeting, so I feel like that meeting we had the other day was a success.
yeah. Well, and it's hard, because just looking at these pictures and the map, it's,
Right.
you can gather what you can out of them, but unless you kind of put boots on the ground, you don't really.
Right.
All right, so you said
B.
B,
Yes.
okay.
So
So-
if that's the case, then the findings, you're happy with the findings that were made and answering the 5 questions, correct?
Yeah.
Subject to adding what Deb is adding about the environmental and the state plans. So the next question is about the benefit. Does the benefit to the applicant outweigh the detriment to the neighborhood or community?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I didn't know if we had to go back through them because we had done them previously. Do we go back?
I
We
think,
can,
I
we
think
can. Yeah,
that's entirely up to you.
yeah, now that we kind of know exactly, so with Plan B, we'll go back through the questions. That way, we've got
Everybody's.
that, and Debbie's got something clear, because
Yeah.
we're gonna owe her some whiteout after this. All right, so going back for Lot A, and now we've settled on Plan B, so we don't even have to say Plan B anymore. Whether the benefit sought by the applicant can be achieved by some other feasible method.
Now we say no.
No,
No.
Whether an undesirable change would be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties.
No.
no.
You're improving on,
Right.
Yeah.
everybody sees that house, right? The side of that house right now as you turn, so a nice new house there will be aesthetically pleasing. Whether the requested variance is substantial.
Yes.
Now I'd say no.
Well, the area variance is.
The area
Yes.
variance, yeah,
Very
okay.
substantial.
Area
very
variance.
substantial.
Would it still be substantial, even though you can't change the size of the lot itself? Like, no matter what you did there, you still need that giant
I mean, you can
variance.
certainly
So-
say that. It's probably substantial, but with these mitigating factors,
Okay,
which are, if you want to repeat them again, for Deb. So the answer is they're substantial, but what's the but?
Well, they're substantial because of the
The lot
lot
size.
size.
and the shape of the lot.
Mhm.
Oh, and the shape of the
So
lot, sure.
there's really not anything else you can do to change
Any
It
of
is
it.
what it is.
that. Yeah,
But
Yeah.
there's nothing else you can do, is I think the answer to that,
okay,
because of the shape of the lot.
okay. So with that, whether the variance will have an adverse effect on physical or environmental conditions,
No,
No, Plan B.
Plan B, no.
right? Because it would be,
The better.
it would be an improvement too, okay.
With current improvement to the current conditions, certainly.
And then number 5, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created.
Yes.
He bought the lot.
Yeah.
Slap his hand, don't buy those things.
Could have just kept the house as is.
Yeah.
But, okay, so now that we've done that, we need to get a motion,
Well,
or do we need to go?
so now the next question is, does the benefit to the applicant outweigh any detriment to the neighborhood or community? So his benefit of having this lot and these variances. Does it outweigh any detriment?
No.
No. The improvement.
So the benefit to the applicant does not outweigh detriment to the community.
No.
Okay, so that's the answer on that one. So then the next question has to do with what's the minimum variances that are required to protect the character of the neighborhood?
And that
And
is,
go ahead. Can repeat those again.
so an area variance, so just read the whole thing, okay.
Yeah.
So the area variance that we're looking for here, the requirement's 100,000 square feet, he has 17,946. Needs a variance of 82,054 square feet.
And is that the minimum necessary? Yes.
Yes. Front yard requirement is 40. He has 22.3. Needs a variance of 17.7 feet.
And that's the minimum.
That's the minimum,
That is required.
correct. And then the rear yard, the requirement is 40. He has 17.5
No, we went to
or 13, I'm sorry, he has 13.
Needed a variance of
13.0,
27.
so he needs
So
a
you need
variance of 27.
Correct. I have a lot of scribbles on this page,
Okay,
and that is the minimum variance for that.
Now you can take the motion.
Okay. Now, we have a motion to approve or deny.
I'll make a motion to approve those numbers on lot A.
You want to-
Huh?
What he said.
Yeah, what I said, what he said, yeah, basically, lot A, plan B, and the variances. We have 1, 2, 3 variances that we need to okay.
And second.
Here a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Anybody want to abstain?
Well, you got to vote.
I voted, I said.
Oh, you did, okay, all right, good.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. Well, congratulations very much.
On that
Lot
one.
A.
Now we got
Now property.
Now, B,
All right, So- yeah, so B, this is a little bit easier. So B is for, what's the property address? 5546 is that one, right?
5590.
5590. Okay, so property B is for 5590 North Burdick Street. Let's see, he's looking for an area variance and a road frontage variance. The area variance, and this is again to subdivide the 2 lots, the variances that are required for that. He needs 100,000 square feet. He has 28,749. He needs a variance of 71,251 square feet. And then a road frontage, the requirement is 200 feet. And because Tom had a very specific ruler of 199.63 feet, he needs a variance of 0.37 feet. Few inches.
Motion.
do we?
Well,
Do we have to answer the
still have to
questions?
answer the
We've got to go back
questions.
through the questions, yeah.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
all right. Everybody need a recap of what we've talked about over the last hour.
Mhm.
So we're gonna now go through the same questions that you answered, Ryan. And we've done on the lot A. So for lot B, whether the benefit sought by the applicant can be achieved by some other feasible method.
Nope.
Well, not in this case, because the
No.
house is stationary.
Yeah.
Right, there's not really anything with changing here.
Okay.
And again, this goes back to the lot size is what it is.
To get 2 lots.
To get. two
Maybe you
lots.
get the dentist to sell them some more land.
They barely had enough land.
I remember that one.
Yeah, that will happen.
All right.
Not For 50 cars.
So then the second question is whether an undesirable change would be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties.
No,
No,
Whether the requested variance is substantial.
Yes.
yes,
Yes and no. Can you say yes and no?
Well.
Or is it just yes? because
Yes,
the
but,
one
yes,
is-
but.
Yes, but the road frontage one is not.
Right.
It's teeny.
It's this bunch.
That's right.
All right. Whether the variance will have an adverse effect on physical or environmental conditions.
No.
no,
No,
All right. Whether the alleged difficulty was self-created.
yes,
yes,
question.
Yeah.
Have we heard from the dentist, that those people, property next door?
No, They were noticed.
Yeah, I notified their main office down city, and I also sent a letter to the office on North Burdick, and I didn't hear anything.
Okay, we wouldn't hear from the people up on top, would we?
They're not close enough.
They're not,
Mhm.
okay,
I sent them a letter, but
yeah,
they didn't do anything.
they're all
either.
notified. Okay, they've been notified.
Yes.
Yeah, very
So
good.
the benefit to the applicant does not outweigh detriment to the community and, or the benefit to the applicant. It's really the does, right? So if it does outweigh the detriment, then you grant the variance.
Right,
Correct.
right, agreed? Good, so
yeah,
we need a motion.
I'll motion,
Well, let's talk one more. Are these variances the minimum that should be granted in order to preserve and protect the character of the neighborhood?
Yes,
Yes.
right,
And I think that this lot has to be like this, or these variances need to happen for this particular lot to make lot A feasible.
work it all.
yeah,
Yeah.
make it more pleasant to look at.
Mhm.
agreed.
With that being said, can we get a motion to approve or deny these variances?
I motion.
What's your motion?
So
Oh,
she hasn't done this before. so
Yeah.
do you
Right,
wanna-
right, no, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Make the motion, we'll do this.
Whatever he
So-
said.
whatever, yeah, the
TP,
motion.
do you want to,
I can do.
or
Yeah,
Claire,
you can do it.
Well, I can try.
just so they can, so they can see what the normal process is?
Well, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, I motion that we grant to Ryan Smith for the property located at 5590 North Burdick Street, Fayetteville, New York, 13066. An area variance, the requirement is 100,000 square feet. He has 28,749 square feet, granting him a variance of 71,251 square feet. In addition, on the road frontage, the requirement is 200 feet. He has 199.63 feet and grant him a variance of 0.37 feet.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Warren? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Do we abstain? No.
Well done, Claire.
Thank you, Claire. So
Good job.
that's the normal
Mhm.
process for making the motion for, and we'll, Claire, do you have that? We could email that out.
I don't have the form.
Verbiage. We can get that up to Warren and Carrie so that they have
Oh, to do the motion.
the motion part, yeah.
Well, Claire
That's-
does hers very nicely. She put.
Yeah.
I
that
prepared
ahead of
them.
time.
Once I saw this, I'm like,
I'll just
yeah.
watch it. Oh,
No, and that's what I try to do when I've done them too, so.
I will give the approvals to Lisa tomorrow, and she will,
Okay.
or you can get in touch with her. She'll get.
You need to come back to planning board.
Yes, but now that you, through the ZBA, I can talk to her about getting on the docket
Yeah,
for the next planning
yeah.
board.
Correct.
So-
Is the planning board choice? You're on
Yes.
the agenda.
Oh, we've got them on? Okay.
Yeah, I was hoping that I could do that. Thank you very much for it. Appreciate it. You probably normally can do 2 or 3 people in the amount of time. or something, so thank you.
Oh, yes, yeah.
So.
So, this is, this is
Yeah.
a type 2 action,
Oh.
so no further seeker is required.
Okay.
The area variances are type 2.
And then If we have no other agenda items, can we get a motion to close the meeting?
Make a motion to adjourn.
A second.
Carrie, second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?